Hey up, cock. We're going to look at next season in Championship already, even though it only finished 5 minutes ago. But I just can't stop, man. The craving of football never leaves me. Now, I'm organised this video, so I've got 3 separate segments. I've got a list of 7 things that I'm convinced are going to happen. Then I've got clumps of teams that I'm convinced are either going to have a much better year than they have this time, or a much worse one. And then finally, to see the video off, I've got my very early thoughts. I know nothing has happened yet. We don't know who's going to lose players, who's going to bring anything in. You never know. But who I think is going to get top 2 playoffs and go down at a very early look at it. So first, I've got a list of things that I'm convinced are going to happen, which might be a little bit rogue, some of them, but still. First one, and we can fly through a couple of these really quickly, but first one, I only think Ipswich will go up out of the 3 sides that have come down. Leicester obviously are waiting on a big points deduction. I don't actually know what it is yet. And Southampton, I know they've brought Will Still in, and I can't comment on him as a manager because the only thing I know about Will Still is all memes that people say about him. Like, will still be at Southampton in February? But they've come down with 12 points. It's been an embarrassingly poor year, and I think Championship at top end next time will be much better. So Southampton I'm not convinced on. And Leicester, I think if it weren't for the points deduction, they'd have been fine for top 2 because they've shown a little bit towards end of season in Premier League. And partner that with Russell Martin, who I think is a very overrated manager, but with best players in the league, he's going to be good. I think only Ipswich and are an absolute guarantee for top 6 and almost top 2, really. Which leads me to my next one, which is that I think Ipswich are an absolute guarantee, a certified top 6 the next season, 100%. I don't actually know what bookies' favourites are at the minute, but I'll get it up now so I can see it on screen at the same time. But I'd imagine Ipswich would be near top, if not top. I can't really see anyone coming in for McKenna, who is obviously a fantastic manager. I don't think they're going to lose too many of the best players. Only Delap's certainly going to go in it. The rest of them, it's up in air. I don't think there'll be many bids for any of them. Amari Hutchinson might take a little bit of interest, same as Jacob Greaves, but I don't really see why they'd sell him. Once they've sold Liam Delap and they get 30 million quid, they could afford to say, no, just stay here and we'll get promoted again this season. And even though I think top end of the division is going to be a lot better in terms of like your top 8-ish in Championship, I think your top 2 or 3, like Leeds, Burnley and Sheffield United this year, 100, 190 points respectively, I don't think anybody, bar Ipswich, could potentially get these points tallies. I think it'll be high 80s to get promoted next year. So that's second. I think Ipswich are an absolute cert for top 6. Quite rogue, but I think Millwall getting top 6 as well. I do like Millwall, but that has no effect on what I'm saying here. I've always thought that for a smaller side, like Millwall are in Championship, to be challenging right at top, you've got to consistently make massive sales. You look at Brentford and the Moneyball system that they were operating for a long time, or more recently Hull. Like obviously this season they've had an absolute stinker and finished 4th bottom, but last year they finished 7th. They sold Philogene, they sold Keane Lewis Potter, Jacob Graves. They've made some big sales, Hull, in recent years, and it's given them a chance to reinvest that money across a full squad, which you won't be able to do realistically, just relying on attendance figures and broadcast revenue that you get from Championship. You need to make big sales, and Millwall are doing that now. Fleming's not ridiculous. I don't know the reported fee. He's hitting around 5-6 million quid, I think, to Burnley, Fleming. But Roman Esse, what, £12.5 million? Tanganga's definitely going to leave, which he is the best player after Esse's left. Tanganga is comfortably one of the best centre-halves in the league. But you'd think that they can demand up to 10 million quid for him as well. If they got 12.5 for Esse, I'd expect around 8 plus for Tanganga. They're investing in right areas. They've got a very good manager, Alex Neil, in this league, I think. For a top-end side, not bad. And I think with Millwall, the culture that they've got instilled there, being very defensively solid and hard to beat and horrible, which a lot of teams don't like. I love it. But they've always been in and around flirting with playoffs every year. And that's before having big cash injections into a lot of different areas of pitch. They've never made huge sales. They got a decent bit of brass for Saville, didn't they, at time, and they've got him back now. And the core and spine of Millwall squad is very good, I think. Reinvest the money that they're inevitably going to get from Tanganga in summer, and there's no reason these couldn't get in top 6. They're always knocking on door, and that's where bang average side for a number of years. Spend a decent bit of brass with same culture. Millwall, there's no reason they can't get in there. Next up on my list, Birmingham. I think Birmingham will finish in top 6 as well. Now, these were, at one point, 4th favourite for Championship. Normally, we're a very good side that comes up from League One. They'll have them in and around 8th, 9th-ish, in and around that clump of teams. I think Ipswich doing double of a year is what's made them more aware that it could happen, especially if you throw a decent bit of brass at it with a good manager and a decent core, which Birmingham have obviously got. They're a very good side. Very good. And I know we're talking about League One here and the amount of money that they chucked in to go up against teams like Chuffing Crawley. They were very consistent all the way through here. We aren't even getting out of first gear. I don't think I saw half them players sprint once. They were just jogging about and cruising past teams 2-0. We are having to try, really. And regardless of the points record, they're not as good as Ipswich were. And I stand by that, and we'll see it next year because Ipswich went straight into second. The level of that squad that Ipswich had honestly, were outrageous. But Birmingham are not a million miles behind. They're not as good, but they're not a million miles behind. And when you look at the table, how it's finished in Championship, there's a lot of these sides that I could see dropping down a little bit, and Birmingham already being better than half at league anyway. You've got to imagine that they're going to spend some money again. If they drop 30 mil in League One, they might spend another 20 in Championship. I don't know the exact figures. But they're not going to be shy. These will be up and around top 6, definitely Birmingham will. And so will Wrexham, number 5. I'm kidding. No. Wrexham won't get top 6. But a lot of people think, oh, they're in for a shock. One of them ones, like people were saying to Birmingham in League One. Wrexham will be in for a shock in fact that they're not going to be straight up in top 2. Like they have been for the past however many years. They've just been winning constantly for about 4 or 5 years. They've never really had someone peg them back. This time they will, but not to the extent that a lot of people think. They will not be even close to bottom 3. Not even close. I've got Wrexham to finish in and around 11th. Proper serious mid-table. Like where Swansea are this season. I think that'll be Wrexham next time. Nice segue into number 6. I think at least 2 decently big sides will get relegated this season. Mainly because of Birmingham and Wrexham coming up and being as good as they are going to be and the amount of money that they're going to chuck about. It's going to be a tough old league for some relegation scrappers that have survived this time. Not to put down on things because they've only just gone up. But Charlton, I think, are in a lot of bother and they need a lot of investment. But other than that, if you're looking at like Hull all the way up to Wednesday, realistically, sides that could be in trouble. Or Blackburn, you know. Blackburn with the ownership circus. I think Ismail could be all right with him anyway, even with limited tools, because he did it at Barnsley without spending anything, really. There's going to be some big old sides that are in trouble, I'm telling you. Immediate ones that I'd look at, Preston, I know they're not a big side, but Preston, a team that's been in and around, 12th, the battle for mid-table with Bristol City for years on end. I think Preston could be in trouble if they don't manage this big rebuild properly. They've let a lot of players go. It's a lot all at once to deal with for a side that finished 20th. QPR, again, they've got Callum and they've got some decent players, but losing Cifuentes could hurt them. Whoever you end up looking at on this list as teams that you think could potentially go down, they've all got at least something going for them, apart from one side. And it's not even about me hating them. Wednesday are just such a circus. Anybody that's wearing a suit at Wednesday ain't got a clue. Chancery down, they're all just lost. They're in such trouble. You've got a manager that don't want to be there, and he's burnt his bridges at Wednesday, but no one's coming and paying him out. You're relying on like a German side to come and save her all, really. A lot of the best players want to leave or will leave. Charles on loan was going back. Windass, the whole contract situation there. Even Charles in net, I could see him being bought by a bit super team because he's a good keeper at that age. You've got players that won't sign contracts because of someone like Ugbo, for example, who's on high 20s, thousands a week. He's on a ridiculous wage. Why would someone accept less than that? So that's why you're not seeing certain players sign contracts, because they're looking at Ugbo and thinking, why the bloody hell would I sign a contract on less than him when he's worse than I am? You're looking at players that they're linked with, like Santos. He gets on bench for Bolton in League One, who finished about 8th. How are them the level of players that you're looking at? I think Wednesday could be in a lot of trouble, you know. Which, again, nice little segue. Leading to my 7th one, just a quick little point. Oxford, I think, will definitely be safe. I think people are doing what they do in Premier League with Bournemouth and Brentford and them sort of sides and think, you're small, you're going down. I think that's what people are doing with Oxford. They've got a bit of brass. They're not going to chuck £10 million about and 4 or 5 million quid per player. But the amount of recruitment and money they invested in summer across more or less a full squad, because they lost Murphy as well as one of the best players. They kept Brannigan, but they had to invest in a lot of different areas. They bought Helikin, top centre half in this division. I stand by that a big time. Oxford will be more than fine. Promise you. Now, if we look at teams that are going to definitely improve on last season's finish, I'm going to go bottom to top and what I think. Derby first in 19th. I think Derby with John Eustace are going to be pushing in and around mid-table again. Same as Wrexham, like a Swansea or a Sheffield Wednesday on current screen. Derby are poor going forward, and I think that's where they need to invest a lot of the money at top end at pitch, because they are quite slack. They don't offer a lot going forward. But defensively, just from what I see, I'm not even so bothered about stats. When I see Derby, I think they're very good at back, especially under Eustace as well, as a fantastic manager. He had Blackburn in and out playoffs with one of smaller budgets, really, and not to play with from higher ups. Going down to Derby, who were at bottom 3 at time and looked doomed, to keep him up. He's a very good gaffer. He had Birmingham in top 6 and then they sacked him for ruining it. Like, he's got a lot of experience now at a few different clubs in this level, and he's succeeded relative to the club at all of them. I like them big defenders that they brought in, because when they lost Cash in January, I'm not going to lie, I thought they could have been in a little bit of trouble. But the lads that they've brought in are stepping up to it as well. Defensively, they're solid, Derby, and I just think with Eustace at helm, and a decent bit of brass because attendances that bring in a nuts derby. They should start pushing away now. I think they've survived the initial onslaught of, when you go down to League One and all like financial side, coming back up it's a struggle then. But they've survived the initial phase, so I think they'll be fine now and they'll kick on. Honestly, exact same with Stoke. Mark Robbins, similar reasons. They've got a couple decent players, Stoke, that they might end up losing, like Berger, for example. But they've also got some decent young ones as well. The average age of Stoke's squad is one of the youngest in divisions. And I just think people have got nostalgia bias with Stoke and think they've still got Rory Delap and Crouchy running around and that their average age is 30. Again, it is mainly down to manager and what he can do at a given time. But I think Stoke, again, will massively improve on this season's finish, which is 18th. Another one is Portsmouth, who have finished in 16th this season, on the first season back in Championship in about 15. The Rome form is top 6 standard. The amount of goals scored is in and around top half, top 6-ish standard. They're not a million miles off. They're very good going forward. Colby Bishop and Murphy are going to give you that. Quite opposite to Derby, really. Portsmouth are fantastic going forward and horrendous defensively. That needs to change. I think they're going to invest a lot of the money in the back line. And if they can avoid constantly being tonked away from home, which they just have been all year, these will just naturally go up anyway. Even without any investment, you'd think being back in division now for your second year, Portsmouth, a bit more switched on, especially away from home. Don't be so open at back, and they'll pick more points up naturally anyway. Part of that with ridiculous home form that they've got. Portsmouth, again, I think they'll be up and around mid-table. Much safer than they have been this season. Even though they survived with a couple of games left, they were in and around that clan for full year. I don't think they will next time. Millwall, like I said, I think they'll get top 6. They've been in and around outside of playoffs for a number of years. I think this time they will actually take that step in and get in there. And finally, Coventry. Coventry finished 5th and they ended up losing in semi-finals. Lampard, I really like him. Honestly, I really do. I hope that teams haven't just figured Coventry out now and that they're not that good at breaking sides down and that we'll just resort to crosses non-stop, as we saw with Sunderland games at playoff legs. But the amount of money that Coventry have got and the level of player that they've got that they could sell for big money. I said this about Sunderland because I didn't think they'd go up this time, but it's when, not if. Coventry, at a certain point, with this group of players and the amount of brass that they've got surrounding them and their attendances and everything now that Coventry are doing well, they will get promoted eventually. I think they'll go at least one better next time. I think they'll go to Wembley at least, honestly, Coventry. They're one of my favourites for next year. So they're my 5 that I think will do better. Derby, Stoke, Portsmouth, Millwall and Coventry. I've got 3 teams, which, if you're on this list, unlucky. I've got 3 teams that I think will definitely be worse than last year. And we'll go top down this time. Bristol City. I think it's an obvious one. As a smaller side that does well and gets into Championship playoffs, obviously, Barnsley are a freakish example of this because we finished last season after. Bristol City won't go down. But the lack of investment from top, it just puts people off. I think it puts players off joining. I think, well, Manning's being linked to Norwich as well. We're going to give him more money to play with. Norwich finished in 13th. Like, they're a big-ish Championship side in recent history, Norwich. But it's Norwich. It's not like we're going to West Brom or like a Wednesday or some huge powerhouse. I think if Bristol City lose the manager to Norwich, they are just doomed to an eternity of 12th. And I think normal service will be resumed with Bristol City. They've not really got any players who could get huge amounts of money for either. You know, like I'm saying about Millwall needing big sales so that you can reinvest it in different areas. Bristol City have got some very good midfielders, but they don't excel going forward or at back. I think Manning is the biggest asset, and if they lose him for, what, like £1 million per or whatever it's going to be, it might not even be that, it's not going to be good. So I think Bristol City won't be near playoffs next season, unfortunately. Same again for Blackburn. Like I said earlier, a lack of investment from top end does filter down. And Blackburn's squad at end of day is just not that good. It really ain't that good. Ismail does do better with lesser squads, I think you could say. At Barnsley, it was fantastic. He got us into Championship playoffs. Then at West Brom, he got sacked after, what? Did he even get a full season at West Brom? I don't think so. We're much bigger crop of players. I don't think he's that good at handling egos that don't want to be told. He's very much a disciplinarian, is Ismail. And that works with our lads at time. Blackburn's squad, I just think there's a couple of players in there that think they're much better than what they actually are. And I don't think they'll be 7th next year, that's for damn sure. I think they'll be bottom half, personally, Blackburn. And then the obvious one that I touched on earlier is Wednesday. It's mainly the level of play that I think they'll be able to bring in. They're not going to spend loads of money on signings. They're not going to be able to chuck loads of money at wages, really, which is all that Wednesday have done for years. Chuck stupid wages at people in Championship that have ended up not being good enough. And if you're going for a player like Santos to start for you at centre-half, who doesn't even start for Bolton in League One, that just says it all. I think Wednesday could be in a heap of trouble. And then just as a little bonus segment, there's a couple odd ones that I've got no idea what they could do. Middlesbrough. If they sack Carrick, who knows? But if they don't, they could end up chuffing winning league if he gets a grip on him, or they could be bottom half. I just don't know with Middlesbrough. Same as Watford, they're just all over the place. And Norwich. Like, if they bring Manning in, that's a big step. but they're going to lose Sargent and Borges Hand, you'd think. They've got a League 2 standard defence, but they've got all this money. I don't know. Norwich are there's some odd sides. But the moment that we've all been waiting for, I'm going to go through my promotion, playoffs and relegated sides for next season very early. It's not even finished May yet and I'm doing it. I don't care. Relegated, Charlton. They have only just come up, so apologies. But I think the gap is a little bit too much for him right now. I think the standard of League One this season has been absolutely horrendous, as seen by quality of the two teams that were in playoff final. Charlton and Leyton Orient were both very poor, I thought, and that just speaks to the standard at league. Wrexham and Birmingham considerably better than all the rest of them. They're very good defensively, Charlton, at League One standard, but Championship, I think they get torn to shreds. They need heavy investment in every single area of pitch, and it just comes down to whether they're going to do it or not, unfortunately. Going down with them. Again, not a hatred thing. I've touched on it many times. I think Wednesday, a sinking ship with Chansiri in charge. He refuses to acknowledge bids that are coming in from outside investors. He's told fans for ages, you need to find me a buyer. They're doing it, and he still won't sell. I think this only ends one way for Wednesday next season, and it's to go down. And finally, my current thought is that Preston could be in a bit of trouble. Obviously, this is going to change as season and transfer window goes on and we get closer to August. It's going to change a lot. But Preston, it's a big rebuild all at once. A lot of them are going on freeze. Have they got the amount of money to be able to buy in all these players that's going to be needed to keep you up for a side that finished outside at bottom 3 on final day? It's a big ask, but I think Preston could be bothered as well. Playoffs at current thought, Birmingham, Millwall, Sheffield United obviously will be in and around there, and West Brom. Obviously, we don't know the manager situation at West Brom yet, but the core of that squad is very good. They have got some top players. Again, they are surrounded by a couple numpties, but that's what summer's for. Get rid of numpties and bring some half-decent players in. West Brom, I think, a bit of a sleeping giant in this league, really. I think they could get out quite soon, but I'd have them for playoffs. And Sheffield United goes without speaking. This isn't the order I think it'll go in, by the way. I think Sheffield United could be pushing autos all the way again. I think they should keep Wilder, but they're going to lose like Hamer, Souza, a lot of the players are going to go. Obviously, they can reinvest it, but you're not going to be able to get that level of player in. It is going to be a downgrade on a side that already weren't good enough this year. Finished on 90, well, they got 92 points, didn't they, because they're the -2. If they keep Wilder, they're going to get a decent point tally again. But my current top 2 is Coventry, for obvious reasons, which I've said, and Ipswich, same again. I think Ipswich are far and away the best side that's coming into this league. I think they should walk it, honestly. But that's how I see it, current top 6 and bottom 3 going. It's obviously going to change as summer goes on, but at the minute, this is where I'm at looking at next season. If you liked the video, please actually like it. It helps me out a lot, and sub, it helps me a lot. Love you all. Kiss, and I'll see you in a bit. Goodbye.
I say I'm a man, yes, I'm a mucker. I think of me saying as a right good looker. I say up that. Show us bit it.